Hello, my name is Missy, and I'm the intern for the Maze team. And I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about what I've been working on and about my experience over the past 2-ish months. So the agenda for this presentation, I'll start with what my project is, give a rough timeline and a high-level view of the solution. I'll talk about the wins, losses, and challenges I experienced while working on this. Moving forward, I'll discuss the current state of my project, what I intend to accomplish in my time remaining here, and what will happen after I leave. And then I'll mention things throughout the presentation that I've learned, but I'll end with kind of my key takeaways from this internship. Yeah, so servability, this is the title of the project and the service that I've created. Something that I've learned about was importance of naming, which is something I hadn't put a lot of thought into before. So we chose servability because it describes what the service is for and it's unique. It's not a real word, but you can still understand what its meaning is. So that's why we chose it. So why isn't my line item serving? This is the problem that I'm trying to help solve. It's a question that the Maze team has asked, and it takes them time and effort to figure out why a line item isn't serving. So the purpose of servability is to provide an easy-to-use service that will validate a line item servability and produce a detailed report that clearly lists all the potential reasons a line item may not be serving. So I began by refactoring the existing code so that when the project is completed, we can easily switch between the old code and the new service using a strategy pattern to ensure that they both agree on the servability of a line item. I had some meetings with my stakeholder who works in technical support to discuss potential use cases, and I spent a lot of time investigating the existing code to discover the business rules that would prevent a line item from pushing to serve, and then using test-driven development and a specification pattern, I encapsulated each of these rules into an object, and I built the service such that you can either receive the first rule that fails or receive a report on a particular subset of these rules. There were two aspects to this project. The first to be adding a feature to the CBS triage tool so that Maze and others can query with the line item ID, and the tool will produce a report on all the rules that a line item is satisfied in order to serve and provide a reason why a line item is or is not satisfying that rule. And then also to refactor the existing code that validates a line item before it's pushed to serve to use this service. My project has been a particularly great learning experience because I got to see at least a little bit of every step in the process of creating a new service. So from database access to creating or updating this UI layer. This is the current state of the UI. The upper table is the result of the lookup line items option, and I've added the last column, can serve, which is the result of the function that returns false on the first rule that fails. And then there's also the new why isn't my line item serving feature, which produces the report you see in the lower table. Each rule has a name, a description for what it checks for, and then a reason why that line item is passing or failing that rule. So the wins, losses, and challenges. For my win, I said I accomplished something new. Basically, everything that I used or did on this project was new to me. So C#, .NET, VF Core, a bunch of different design patterns and other things, they're all new to me. So it was cool that I was able to create something with all this stuff that I've never seen before. For loss, I said wasting time. I think this is somewhat an inevitability, especially when you're seeing everything for the first time. But there were definitely moments where I'd get ahead of myself and have to go back to correct things or just didn't do things in the best order. For example, when it came to implementing some of the more complicated rules, I definitely maybe misunderstood them and implemented them and then realized that they weren't checking what I wanted them to and had to go back and rewrite them. And my biggest challenge was that I found working within an existing code base to be difficult. It was sometimes useful because I could find examples of things that I wanted to implement, but it was definitely a big challenge for me to come to understand all the details of the code and Criteo's business logic. Moving forward, so my internship is extended to the end of August, and in that time, I will finish the implementation for CD line items. They're quite a bit more complicated than SP, and there's still some rules that need to be fleshed out, and they need to be exposed at the top level. I'll refine the business rules just to remove any ambiguity and make them super easy to read and integrate the service into the existing code. And then A/B testing will continue on until after my internship ends, but eventually things should completely switch over to using the observability service. Okay, so what I've learned, at the beginning of this internship, we all went around like a circle on the table and say what we wanted out of the experience, and we all said real life experience or work experience, which is like kind of cliche, but it's like obviously true. I think I've learned things here that I would not learn in school or just have never been emphasized about working as a software developer. For example, like stressing the importance of making readable code, practice coming to understand existing code and how much the readability of that code can affect the productivity of a developer. And then I've also learned about a bunch of other stuff, including domain-driven design, solid principles, Garrett workflow, and a bunch of different design patterns, among other things. A lot of those things I found super interesting, and I really look forward to learning more about them. Yeah, and thank you. I want to say thank you to Andrew and Jakob and everyone else on the base team for teaching me all sorts of things and being really nice. And thank you to Criteo and everyone for listening.